Welcome back to Lesson 1 in our new module about earning power. This lesson cut off a bit shortly as we were talking about investing in yourself, so I just wanted to go back to the assignment that is in your notebook. We went through this together. It was called, What is it worth to be in class? So we were calculating how much getting that high school diploma was worth. At the top, there were a number of different degrees and the lifetime earnings for somebody, the average lifetime earnings for somebody who has those sorts of degrees. Then we went through and we did some subtraction and some division, and at the bottom we had this number, $604.17. After we did all the subtraction and the division that they asked us to, we got this number. But I wanted to explain what this was. This number is the approximate value of a day's education for a high school graduate. That means if you make it to high school, and you make it to the high school graduation with a standard diploma or an advanced diploma in your hand, every single day of high school was worth about $604.17 to your future. Now, that's not saying that you're going to make $604 every single day, but it's saying because you were there in class when you needed to be, you did your homework, you studied, you learned the information that your teachers asked of you so that you could become a better individual and be prepared for life outside of high school. Because you did what you were supposed to do, every single day was worth about $604.17 to the future that you could earn. So let's review or preview what we're going to be learning throughout this lesson. We're going to answer the questions, what does it mean to invest in myself? And we kind of already have. When you invest in yourself, it means that you take the time to continue learning. And as you've kind of just seen through the what is it worth to be in class, if you take the time to do what you need to do, you can be better suited, better prepared for life, and more suited to live the life that you want to live. And a few other questions that we're also going to answer is, does education really have an impact on my future earnings? Well, again, that's just what we showed you in that last activity. And finally, how can I minimize the cost of advanced education? Then we'll be using what you've learned today to outline a plan that can help you invest in yourself through education by continually developing your skills. So now I want to introduce you to two different people that we'll be learning about through this lesson. I want you to meet Kevin and Gina. So every unit you have two new students to learn about and to see what choices they're making and how it impacts their future. So Kevin is a senior. He works part-time in a restaurant, and he wants to go into the medical field, which is a very advantageous career. But he is worried about paying for college. If you know anything about the medical field, it's not just 4 years of college. Usually it's 4 years of college followed by 2 years of med school, followed by at least 4 years of a residency program before you can actually go and work on your own as a doctor. Nursing is a little bit less. Usually that requires anywhere from 2 to 6 years of education. Gina is a sophomore. She works part-time at her uncle's auto repair shop. She wants to work full-time after graduation, but she's unsure what type of post-secondary education she needs. And she does worry about her family finances. So to get you to understand a little bit more about who Kevin and Gina are, I want you to grab your student booklet, pause this video, and read pages 3 through 9. Pages 3 through 9 in your student guide. It's going to give you a little bit more information about Kevin and Gina. It's also going to give you more of a preview of what we're going to learn throughout this lesson. So go ahead and pause this video now if you haven't already, and go ahead and read pages 3 through 9, please. As we continue on in this lesson, and now that you've finished reading pages 3 through 9, I want you to understand that it is not necessary for every student to go to college. That's not what we're saying. But there are ways to advance your education and continue training without going to school or going to college after high school. So let's look at how you can plan ahead for your career. As you saw with Gina and Kevin, Kevin had a pretty good understanding that he was going to need to college. He was concerned about how he was going to pay for it. Gina, on the other hand, didn't really necessarily know if she needed to go to a college. Maybe she just needed a technical career. So here's some ways that you can plan ahead for your career. You can proactively plan, which means you're working on that now, to take charge of your own future. Don't just let somebody else make all the decisions for you. You are a young adult. Pretty soon you'll be 18 if you are not already, and you will have to be making some decisions for yourself. Expand your options rather than limit your choices. I'm sure you've asked that question, why do we need to know this, sometime in your life during your education career. I oftentimes will give students this answer. It's to give you options. It's to give you options later on in life. You might not need to know the history of the United States in order to go into car sales. But if you decide that car sales isn't a job for you, and maybe you want to be a historian or an art collector, then the history of the United States actually becomes very important. You might not need to know how to do a lot of math work, especially working with equations of lines, that y equals mx plus b slope-intercept form. However, if you even go into any sort of job that wants you to take care of tracking how many hours you worked, then that formula becomes very important. Maybe you don't understand why you have to learn the difference between cellular respiration and photosynthesis in science because you want to go be a hairdresser. Well, perhaps hairdressing doesn't work out for you and you feel like you would rather go work outside in an ecology field. Well, knowing the difference between photosynthesis and cellular respiration is going to give you that option to change careers if you ever need to. If you are starting to plan ahead now, you're going to be able to take advantage of opportunities that are available during your teenage years. You'll be positioned to take advantage of opportunities along the way. You'll have potential to rebound faster if you are unemployed, and you will enjoy the work you do if you start planning now, rather than letting somebody else plan for you or just not have any idea what you're going to do and end up working in a part-time job that doesn't pay very much, that has nothing to do with what you like. So planning ahead, it really can help you in the future. If you just have a haphazard career and training plan or no plan, that's really could delay the potential for your advances. So if you can start thinking about your career and education options now, that really will help you take advantage of opportunities available. So example, enrolling in classes for college, ensuring that your coursework is completed and that you're eligible for other class requirements. And planning ahead, it's also going to reduce the risk of barriers, something getting in your path that's going to stop you in your tracks, such as not enough credits to graduate. If you're planning now, you'll make sure that you know exactly what you need to graduate. You might have insufficient grades or coursework to get into a training or college program. So if you aren't taking advantage of your classes now, colleges in the future might say, nope, you can't come here. And that might really impact eligibility requirements for a job or for other training. So before you decide on a college or any after-school training that you might need, it really does help to have a sense of what your first career might be, so that any education and training after high school has a purpose, and that's going to help you towards your career goal. I want you to think of 2 different possible careers that sound interesting to you. Maybe you really enjoy helping people and caring for them. Well, one career could be nursing or being a CNA. Maybe you really like singing, and so you would be interested in seeing what a music career could be. Or you're really good at working in the kitchen and you want to check out a career working in the kitchen, culinary arts. Perhaps you would like to research careers around hotels and hospitality. Think of 2 careers that would be interesting to you. Your next task is going to be to research those careers and identify some information about them. So you will need to pause this video for quite some time to be able to do this, but I want you to be able to use the internet to research some information. So look in your student binder and search for the worksheet called Building a Path to My Career Task. It looks like this, Building a Path to My Career. Now, the first page has already been done for you as an example, but it says use the occupational handbook and or labor market and occupational data from your state to research information for your top 2 career choices, and I will give you information as to where you can find that. Then compare your answers to a classmate's. You don't actually have to do that. 2 examples are done for you, so you could actually, instead of comparing to a classmate, you can compare your work and your answers to this first page. So let's look at an occupation. We've got a hairdresser and an architect. So an employment outlook is just saying, how employable are these people? Do we need hairdressers? Do we need architects? Well, hairdresser is better than average. So there are a high number of available spots to be a hairdresser. An architect as well. They're better than average. There are a lot of spots. To be a teacher, there's a high need for that as well. However, to be more of an elementary teacher versus, maybe a special education teacher, you're going to see that there is not a high outlook maybe for elementary teachers, while there is a high outlook for special education teachers. Expected entry-level wage. So entry-level means that you have the bare minimum requirements to be either a hairdresser or an architect. The expected entry-level wages for a hairdresser is about $10 per hour plus tips, and an architect is $60,000 per year. Now, $10,000 versus $60,000 does not seem to make a lot of sense. This is not saying, the hairdresser is not saying that you're only getting $10 a year. It's just talking about hours. I did some math, and I found that a hairdresser, if they make $10 per hour plus tips and they work 40 hours a week for an entire year, they're going to make about $25,000 per year. There are some possible concerns. So 44% of hairdressers are self-employed. That means that it's their own business. If their business doesn't work, they're kind of at a loss. And there is a competition for higher paying openings. So if you want to make more than that $10 an hour plus tips, so you want to work at a very famous hairdresser shop, the competition is going to be very high to get into that. Concerns for architect, about 21% are self-employed. There's a stiff competition for jobs in most prestigious firms. So if you want to be an architect and design buildings, you're going to have to compete with some other architects in order for a company to choose you to build their building. And many work more than 50 hours a week. So while a hairdresser might only work 40 hours a week, an architect is working way over what full-time 40 hours a week is. Hiring requirements. So a hairdresser does need a hairdresser license, and that's usually post-high school training, or some can get that training through a tech center. For an architect to get licensed, it's a 5-year professional degree, plus 3 years of practice work, plus training, and then you have to pass an exam. The school where you can train to be a hairdresser is a Diva Hairdressing Academy, and that is just an example of an actual school that has that degree. This one's fake, actually. And then XXX State University. So it's just showing you that you can get the training at a school or a university. It takes about 1,000 hours to become a hairdresser, 6 years to become an architect. To put that in a perspective, that's about 6 months versus 6 years. The training costs about $11,000 to get all the training that you need to become a hairstylist versus $132,000 for architect. And 3 skills that you could use now to develop and prepare. There's 3 for you. So your job is to fill this out for yourself. Pick 2 occupations and look for this information. You can Google Occupational Outlook Handbook and it will bring you to this website. Along the side, you'll see a list of occupational groups that you can click on, and you can search through different jobs. it will show you most of the information that you need to fill this out, and you'll need to do this twice. So that is the end of this lesson. When you're finished that, you can go ahead and compare your research and your findings to the page before.